Hello everybody, this is a presentation on cloud computing and virtualization. It's brought to you by Cohort 54, Team Silver. Below you'll see the team members and they are listed in the order that they will present. So, what is the cloud? Well, my 8-year-old daughter usually refers to it as the place where the pictures go when they leave the iPad or the iPhone. As you can see here, the cloud is used for many functions. Projects are collaborated on the cloud, files are stored in the cloud, and meetings even take place in the cloud. So, basically, the cloud is the storing and accessing of data and programs over the internet. Businesses interact with the cloud in 3 forms. The first is software as a service. In this form, businesses subscribe to a service that takes place over the internet or an application, such as Salesforce or Concur for data management. The second is platform as a service, where businesses create their own custom applications for use by all in the company, wherever the company is or wherever the physical location is. This could be database, inventory management, warehouse management systems. The third is infrastructure as a service. This is where players like Amazon and Microsoft, they make the backbone, they provide the real estate that can be rented out by other companies. Here we can see the 6 major cloud computing providers: Amazon, Microsoft, Google, just to name a few. These players dominate the whole market and are the leaders in the innovation of this technology. What is virtualization? Technically, virtualization allows for the creation of a virtual version of a device or a resource, such as a server or a network, or even an operating system, where the framework or the resource is combined into one or more execution environments. So basically, what that means is it allows to take one server and create multiple desktops on the one server, maximizing the capacity of the hardware and minimizing the cost impacts created with having multiple server units. In the diagram on the slide, we can see where we have one physical machine, and it is broken apart to have 6 different separate virtual machines, all operating from the one hardware where the original machine has been located. The virtual machines allow for 6 different users to complete 6 different tasks all at the same time, increasing efficiency and minimizing a physical footprint. If we take a look at this slide, we see the workloads without virtualization and the rate that they operate, which is at a lower efficiency. These servers use 4 to 7% of their hardware capacity. They're limited in failover capability, and they're prone to hardware failure. If we look over to the right, when the workloads are migrated to a virtual machine, we have one machine that has the hardware, and the rest are operated based off the partitions of the one server. So now the virtual machines are hardware independent. Each workload is now encapsulated, stacking its workload for better hardware utilization, and this way around 80% of the hardware capacity is achieved. Virtualization allows for improved asset utilization. It lowers capital and power and cooling costs. It allows for reduced management touchpoints, and it accelerates the IT service delivery. What are the key differences? So if you look at the slide below, first let's talk about the similarities. If you see the overlap in the center, we can see clearly that they both operate as infrastructure as a service, and they both provide an abstraction of hardware from user interface, meaning they both either operate in the cloud or in the virtual world. If we look at the specifics of the cloud, we see that it's a self-service, it's automated management out of the box, it's made for end users, it has distributed control, and it's scalable. While on the other hand, virtualization, it also has automated management. It's possible with add-ons, but it's centralized control is required, And IT must provision resources. This is a service that's made for IT management. Now, if we go forward, we can talk about the benefits of cloud computing and virtualization. Next to Shannon.
There are several benefits to cloud computing and virtualization. The first benefit, and the one that most people think of first, is that there is less capital expense. This capital expense saving comes from not having to purchase expensive hardware, such as servers. There is also capital expense savings involved in not having to purchase software and licensing for individual computers. Cloud computing is generally a pay-as-you-go type operating expense. Large amounts of capital spending are often more difficult to fund than weekly, monthly, or quarterly operating expenses associated with cloud computing. Next, better use of resources. Cloud computing creates economies of scale that enable more to be done by fewer people. By reducing the number of people required to maintain local IT operations, the cost required to produce a product or service goes down, and consequently, productivity goes up. Another benefit is that with cloud computing, you and your employees can work from anywhere. Because you are sharing resources that are located in the cloud, you are not tied to a physical location. As long as you have internet access, you can work. This not only allows you to have a global presence quite easily, it could also reduce the square footage required for office space if employees can work remotely, thus reducing operating expenses. Monitoring projects more efficiently is also a benefit. With all documentation related to a project stored in the cloud, all team members can view and edit one iteration of a document so that changes are always up to date. With cloud computing, you don't have to wonder if you have the latest information, because it is always shared. This can save enormous amounts of time sending documents back and forth. More benefits include improved flexibility. Changing directions in your business is never easy. However, with all your documentation and applications residing in the cloud, it is much easier to do. Less operational issues. The amount of downtime is significantly less due to 24/7 support by cloud computing contractors who only get paid when the system is operational. This creates a situation where everyone wants things operational, and everyone wins when it is. Faster disaster recovery. By relying on cloud-based services, companies no longer need complicated disaster recovery procedures. Cloud providers take care of these issues and do it much faster than is typically done in-house. The Aberdeen Group found that a recovery that would have taken a mid-sized business 8 hours was completed in 2.1 hours when companies used a cloud provider. Finally, another benefit is that cloud computing is environmentally friendly. When companies use cloud providers, they only use the server capacity that they require instead of partially using a server that they have locally. By only using what they need, they decrease their carbon footprint. So who needs cloud computing? The short answer is everybody. There are reasons for businesses at every stage to consider using cloud computing. First, entrepreneurs and startups. Starting a business is expensive. By using cloud computing, startups can save considerable money by not having to invest in IT infrastructure. They can also save on software expenses by using software as a service that is available for many popular business applications. Next, small and mid-sized businesses. Cloud computing is a computing solution that grows with you. Oftentimes, businesses can get trapped in old, antiquated technology because it never seems to be the right time to replace equipment. With cloud computing, your virtual infrastructure grows as you grow. And finally, big businesses. Big businesses can realize huge savings by switching to cloud computing and virtualization. Cloud environments can host specialized enterprise applications that many large businesses use. This saves on local server space as well as expense to administer and maintain those servers with in-house IT professionals.
What are the drawbacks and risks to cloud computing? Data security. Data in the cloud is publicly accessible. A cloud provider's network is essentially a public network, and the security is in the hands of the cloud provider. These security guidelines can be more or less secure than your own security requirements. If the cloud provider resides in the US or Canada, there are many regulations to ensure safe harbor requirements are met to ensure the safety of the data stored and transferred. These requirements include laws applying to specific markets, such as the healthcare and credit card markets, where HIPAA and PCI laws are in place. Failure to satisfy these requirements can result in steep fines if regulations are not met. Some countries, such as China, also have requirements for data to be contained in the same country. The cloud provider would need to offer an option to contain this data in order to satisfy this requirement. Flexibility is also a concern. Once a cloud provider is chosen for your business, that cloud provider's capabilities could possibly limit your company's future direction. For example, if you anticipate the need for a particular service platform, such as Microsoft Windows, in the future, you should be sure that the cloud provider has the options to provide those platforms if they are needed. Performance is also a concern. Many cloud providers have published service level agreements for performance, reliability, and scalability. These SLAs can become a limiting factor as your business grows. As with any business decision, cost is a deciding factor. The initial investment in cloud computing can be less than an internally hosted solution. Over time, though, the cost will increase for cloud computing solution as your usage grows, while an in-house hosted solution can be less in the long term. This is due to the fact that customers would not be required to purchase servers for a cloud solution, but for an in-house hosted solution, servers and operating systems will also be required to be purchased. Stability is also a concern. A cloud computing solution is dependent on the cloud partner to implement policies that ensure stability of the cloud solution. This stability can be a deciding factor when choosing the proper solution. You should look for terms like 4 nines or 5 nines to ensure that the servers will have an agreed upon uptime and not require outages to your system. Standards and governance. Where do the responsibilities for compliance and regulations lie? Who is at fault when a system suffers a security breach? Who ensures that customer-sensitive information is secure? These are all questions that must be answered. The short answer is that all parties are responsible. This responsibility is managed through governance policies. Well-defined boundaries of responsibility dictate client and cloud provider responsibilities. Governance models should provide guidelines for areas of responsibility and include policies for separation of duties. Governance is more than a contractual agreement, and it is the customer's responsibility to document how their applications secure data. Service levels for monitoring, auditing, security, and performance cannot be overlooked.
Cloud computing has become a new way to store and access data using the internet, instead of local data storage devices such as servers and data centers. Through the internet, this data is more accessible anywhere and less prone to losses. Do you remember the old server rooms at your company that housed large racks of computers? These rooms held the backbone of your company's data. Oftentimes, this data was backed up on various devices as a precaution of failure or disaster. But unless the backups were stored off-site, they were prone to the same potential disasters. Over time, various forms of cloud computing has emerged. Software as a service, such as Concur's Travel and Expense, is a hosted application on Concur's server. This allows a company to avoid the costly process of installation and maintenance of the program. The program can be accessed anywhere, and the employee does not need to be on the company's network. Platform as a service, the company creates its own custom application. Some companies choose this route to maintain control over their product. Infrastructure as a service is a platform created by a company that is preset to allow other companies to use or rent. This allows a company to utilize a cost saving because the infrastructure is built and maintained by the host company, such as Amazon or Google, and the only cost to the company is a monthly, quarterly, or annual rental or lease bill. Each of these forms has its own unique advantages and disadvantages. Virtualization is the consolidation into a main server or device that is split to allow multiple environments to access at the same time. One example that I remember is terminals. The mainframe computer was located probably in an IT room, and each computer at the employee's desk was a terminal that accessed this mainframe. The terminal is an extension of the mainframe computer, but does not have the hardware of a computer such as hard drives, memory, or processors. The main computer was the one that contained this hardware. Through virtual machines, the capital costs are reduced because there are fewer machines with hardware. Additionally, updates are faster because updates are rolled out to the mainframe and instantly available on all the terminals. This cuts down on the resources needed from an IT standpoint. Cloud computing and virtualization each have their own advantages and drawbacks. Advantages of cloud and virtualization are reduced capital for hardware and space, increased flexibility of resources, and centralized control with increased mobility. Disadvantages are security issues and concerns, legal regulations for data, and long-term cost of using the cloud and virtualization can increase over time. Standards and governance of cloud computing is still being defined. Questions of who is responsible for security of the data and ultimately who is responsible for data breaches can be an open issue. Companies choosing to use a cloud computing option needs to take the time to discuss and agree with the provider how the governance and security of their data will be managed in the long term. As technology continues to advance and new options are created for data accessibility, companies will be confronted with how to utilize these options for the benefit of their employees and customers while ensuring the security of that data. We want to thank you for listening to this presentation today, and hopefully you've gained a new insight on cloud computing and virtualization.